I can tell you on the big perspective, and then Captain McDaniel will get into the Deltona. Countywide homicide was down 33%. We had 12 homicides in 2021. We had 8 homicides in 2022. Burglaries were up a little bit. We went from 226 countywide to 244. Larceny car breaks were down 22% from 236 to 185. Robberies were up a little bit. We went from 140 robberies to 147, but we've cleared 97% of them. And the reason for that is a lot of our robberies you'll hear in Deltona are domestic violence robberies. The husband and wife fight, he snatches the phone from her, that's a robbery. So you'll hear that. Our sexual assaults were up 8% from 103 to 111. The big jump in there is sexual battery on a child. And what we've seen on that is there's a lot of delayed reporting that we're seeing. There's kids that are coming forward years later to say that they had been abused by a family member. Part 1 crimes, which is the measure of homicides, auto thefts, burglaries, larcenies, robberies, aggravated assault, sexual batteries, is down 5% countywide from 2,138 crimes in 2021 to 2,041 in 2022. One of the most amazing things, though, and the thing that I am extremely proud of our organization, you'll see this reflected in Deltona as well, as we solve 57% of all crimes in the county. That nationally is nowhere near that. That national average is somewhere in the upper 20s, low 30s. And we're pushing, and in Deltona, alone, we're at 60% of the crimes we solve. So that's the countywide perspective. Captain, I know we're going to take a cab to talk to one another today, but...
Good morning. I see some familiar faces in the audience. I see some new faces to CompStat. If you have any questions at any point during the talk, we'll just raise your hand and we'll go over it. We're going to talk a little bit about traffic before we get started. I know that's always a hot topic in a city of nearly 100,000 people. Deltona's traffic unit is based off of 1 motor sergeant and 5 motor deputies and 2 dedicated aggressive driving units. Last year, the sheriff purchased 2 aggressive driving vehicles for the city of Deltona. They've been extremely successful since they were implemented last year. We'll go over just the stats for our traffic unit for the month of December. So far, or excuse me, in the month of December, they had 4 felony arrests, 30 misdemeanor arrests. They worked 44 crashes in the city. They wrote over 200 citations. They issued over 100 warnings, and they are very, very busy working traffic complaints and working school zones throughout the city. We'll get into our numbers. So we'll go. All right, we'll start off with our burglaries for year-to-date from January 1, 2022 to December 31st. Our total burglaries are up 17%. We went from 66 burglaries to 77 burglaries in 2022. We had a 47% clearance rate on those burglaries. Clearance rate means we either cleared them by arresting the suspect or we cleared them exceptional, which means we identified a suspect, but the victim did not want to prosecute, so we cleared that exceptional. We had a 78% clearance rate, or excuse me, 78% increase in our total non-residential burglaries. That's like sheds and something like that. We went from 9 in 2021 to 16 in 2022. Brings us into our larcenies. We had an 8% decrease in our larcenies. We had a 16% decrease in our larceny car breaks with a 46% clearance rate. We had a 26% increase in our robberies with a 97% clearance rate. So 90% of the time, we cleared all of our robberies with arrest or by exception. 97% of the time. 97% of the time we cleared them exceptional or with an arrest. It takes us into our aggravated assaults and batteries. We had a 27% increase. The big number there is the domestic assaults and batteries with a 63% increase. Total sex bats, we had a 7% decrease with a 62% clearance rate. Total Part 1 crimes, we had a 3% increase. Our Part 1 property crimes, we had a 6% decrease with a 46% clearance rate. And I want to hit on something that's pretty impressive. If we look at our Part 1 property crimes, that's larcenies, auto thefts, car breaks. If you look back on from 2018, in 2018, we had, we had 977 Part 1 property crimes in 2018. Last year, we had 430 property crimes. That's a significant decrease in property crimes in just 4 years. I think that shows a lot about what the city has invested into the sheriff's office with technology and resources. So those numbers are absolutely amazing. So they continue to go down, and we will continue to push to make them go down.
So you're 60% less victims of property crimes in the city of Deltona in the last 4 years.
That's correct. So it just, I mean, in 2018, it was 977. 2019, it was 755. You look at 2020, 642. 2021, 523. And then you look at 2022, it was 493.
And we have a lot of technology in this city between the tag readers that the city invested a lot of money in, you know, Ring doorbell cameras.
Yep.
There's just a lot. The cameras themselves are just amazing.
The city and the sheriff's office have invested a lot of money into the LPR technology. The detectives can speak firsthand about it. They are one of the most valuable tools one of the most valuable investigative tools that we have. So, and there's a couple cases that we'll talk about that will showcase that.
Go ahead, get into it.
All right. We'll start off with crime. Our first burglary attempt, 2096 East Atmore Circle. This is part of a small trend that we've seen. We have another case we'll talk about from last week. This was an unknown suspect kicked in the victim's front door while he was asleep with his family in the living room. By the time the victim got up and checked the door, the suspects had fled the scene. The detectives.
We did an area canvas right away, and we were able to identify a surveillance camera down the road. Pull the surveillance camera, we see what appeared to be two juveniles wearing masks and gloves, walking in front of the residence garage. Since then, with the help of Carla, of course, we're able to ID a juvenile suspect. He's 17-year-old, Dominic Adams. He lives at 919 East Atmore, which is walking distance from that residence. Since then, Carla was able to get us a status of probation on him. He is on probation for robbery. He does have a curfew. Carla made sure of that. Of 6 p.m., we've been doing curfew checks on him, make sure he's on compliance. If he violates any of the conditions, he's going straight to DJJ. There was another incident where there was a burglary, again on East Atmore. We did get some DNA evidence from that, and he does have DNA on file at FTLE, so we send that in for comparison. Hopefully we'll come back to him and we'll get him out of there.
So this burglary occurs at 1:19 a.m. is my first name. What was the second crime? What time did that occur?
That one actually happened between 7 and 9 p.m.
7 and 9 p.m. And what's the turnaround time before we'll get a DNA hit from FDLE? Have they given us anything, or it's going to have to wait 6 months?
3 to 4 weeks, perhaps.
4 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty good.
Yep.
Just so you know, that's robbery with a firearm, felony 1.
What was that? Where was that robbery at that he committed?
That was in Deltona.
Right.
He actually, I believe, at Trinity Christian.
That's the one where they wanted to sell the dirt bike or something?
Correct, yes.
And then he robbed the guy pointing a gun? Okay.
Okay. And
He's going to be a lot of fun as an adult.
Detective Almazi was speaking about Ms. Carla Kwan. She's our juvenile services director. She handles all the juveniles within the sheriff's office and probably the county and probably more than
Carl,
one
this
county.
is more of a question for you. When we get the DNA profile back, are we going to be able to bump him up to an adult, or as opposed to playing? I mean, he's got a gunpoint robbery.
We'll have to, we'll have to look at everything with the charges on and have a conversation. I think
I think we need to make sure he gets bumped up. Because clearly, if you're getting locked up for gunpoint robbery, you're out there not kicking in doors in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
That's
And then I'm dead or in prison. Takes us to our next business burglary, 1200 Deltona Boulevard, Suite 13. This is the Deltona Animal Hospital. Deputies responded to the address reference a burglary that just occurred. The reporting party advised an unknown white male had made entry into the unoccupied suite of the business and was seen exiting. Detectives and deputies responded, and it's active to CID.
So we did an area canvas. As a matter of fact, Sergeant Pullen here went driving in the area and located this individual wearing the same clothing. We interviewed him, and he denied, of course, but we had plenty of evidence to charge him with the burglary. During the investigation, we also found a car brake that he did in that area, and he was charged with that as well. He doesn't have a very extensive history. He's got 3 felony charges, no conviction on that, 4 misdemeanors and 1 conviction.
What did he get out of the animal hospital? Was it after?
He got, he's a homeless guy. He got some food items, but nothing of value, no medication, nothing of that nature.
Okay.
Okay, that takes us into our larcenies. Our larcenies of note, the first one is 2489 Barbosa Drive. The victim, who was admitted into the hospital, allowed the suspect access to her residence in her vehicle. When she was discharged from the hospital, she noticed numerous electronics had been taken from the residence. She believed the person of interest was Justin Jury. He's 5 and 3 on felonies and 1 and 1 on misdemeanors. This was assigned to detectives.
So we located one of the stolen items at a pawn shop, pawned by a friend of his, Stephen Willis. He lives in the area. This is going to be clear with the rest pretty soon. We're just waiting on the fingerprints from that pawn slip.
Right. Okay.
Okay. This brings us to our next larceny of note. It will be on page 4, larceny at the Walmart, 101 Howland Boulevard. This is a pretty interesting case. The reporting party contacted the sheriff's office after they learned 120 shopping carts were stolen from the grocery side of the receiving side dock. Footage of the incident captured and showed 2 white males exit a red Ford-style truck and load the carts into an attached trailer. This the total value of the carts was nearly $19,000. It's assigned to detectives.
So this same vehicle was captured in surveillance camera at the Walmart in New Smyrna Beach. Same exact vehicle, similar suspects, 2 black males wearing yellow vests. Patrol did a great job on this one. They got our bulletin, and they found this vehicle traveling in the land. Patrol stopped them. Vehicle matched exactly the vehicle in the video. 2 black males in the vehicle, shopping carts on the bed of a pickup truck and the trailer. We found out that they worked for I wouldn't say business, but some raggedy business out of Lake County. They collect shopping carts from the side of the road, from homeless camps. They refurbish them and they sell them back to retailers. So this guy pays them $15 per shopping cart. So I guess they were tired of.
So in the entrepreneurial spirit, they just go to the back of Walmart,
So they
pick 'em
decided
up,
to go to
take 'em out
Walmart
there, and then sell them back.
Yes.
That's
So we
capitalism.
So we ID'd all of them. There's 3 of them. One was arrested for giving false name to deputies. There's 2 additional individuals, Dwayne Harris, Jimmy Jones. We interviewed them. Of course, they denied it. We went over to their residences, looking around to see if there's any shopping carts. We didn't find any. We did get phone numbers for them. We sent 3 search warrants for their phones, cell phones, tower records, geofences. They denied, of course, being at anywhere near Walmart in Deltona and New Smyrna, so if we get the records back and show that we're there, we're going to arrest them.
Very good. That was interesting. Because I think they made the reports that both days we did shop with a deputy at Deltona, and then we went over to New Smyrna. The loss prevention folks were talking about why, stealing shopping carts.
Hundreds of shopping carts gone missing.
So just goes to show you, everything's fair game.
That's right. That brings us into our larceny car breaks. We had 1 for the month of December, which is fantastic. That's on page 5. We cleared that by arrest.
That brings actually 2 juveniles, one from DeLand, one from Deltona on that one.
Yes, 2 juveniles. They snuck around the side of a semi-truck and attempted to open the door while the driver was inside the cab, and it didn't end up well for them. They were arrested. So that takes us into our robberies. On face value, you look at it, and we had 7 robberies. All 6 of those robberies were all domestic violence related, and what that is let's say brother and sister get into a disturbance, brother takes the sister's cell phone, that's considered a robbery in the eyes of UCR, so that's why you see so many robberies. So six out of the 7 were domestic related. If you go to the armed robbery on page 8, this was obviously not domestic related. This was an armed robbery to the Publix on 2100 Saxon Boulevard. Deputies responded to the Publix in reference to the robbery after they were informed a suspect entered the store, purchased a scratch-off lottery ticket. He demanded money and implied he had a firearm. This was turned over to CID.
As the captain was saying about the license plate readers, played a great role in solving this case. We have a license plate reader outside of Publix there on Saxon. Soon after the deputies got there, of course, we checked license plate readers. We got a tag from the suspect vehicle that left the parking lot. We entered that into our hot list, and shortly after that, our deputies in DeLand spotted the vehicle. They attempted to pull him over. He fled from deputies. He was captured shortly after. Our detectives went there, interviewed him. Of course, he denied it. However, he was on camera. So he went to jail. This guy is a prolific criminal. He's got 25 felonies, 15 convictions.
He also, in the car, unbeknownst to us at the time, he committed a burglary in the Bowery that we were able to go back.
Correct. That is correct. So he committed another burglary while he was on the lam for that short period of time. So he was charged with that as well.
Good stuff.
So, and I real quick, just want to touch on the LPR technology. Not only has the city and the sheriff's office invested a lot of money into LPR technology, this year we are actually updating the technology for the license plate readers throughout the city of Deltona. Either Captain Dietrich or Captain Egan can speak on that process if they'd like, but it's a pretty exciting technology, and we're looking forward to having it in the city.
So you guys can jump on that real quick? Since he's going to let you speak, so go ahead.
No, absolutely. So we partnered with a new vendor called Plot Safety. They're out of Atlanta, Georgia. And basically, the new technology, they built software and then they started using cameras to work with the software. Our previous vendor built the camera and then built the software. And unfortunately, their software hasn't kept up with the technology upgrade. So that's why we pivoted, went with Plot Safety, and
the big benefit of this system. There's a lot of benefits, but when you get that, it was a red four-door car. We're able to search red four-door car now as opposed to pouring through tons and tons of records.
Right.
So you can really sharpen down when we get where we need to go.
Our detectives and analysts will
Thank you. Thank you for allowing him to speak.
We actually, we have, I know of one, maybe two HOAs in the city of Deltona that have purchased this technology through their HOA funds. Yes, ma'am?
I would like to find out if Deltona is sufficiently covered with LPRs. If not, where is that gap? I don't even know geographically, but I would like to make sure that Deltona is covered as we move through the new technology. So is Deltona sufficiently covered for our safety?
We will always take more technology. I think as the city grows, we're finding areas that are in need of that technology, and as that comes up, we'll definitely bring it to the city's attention.
I think it's safe to say they can't get it without updating that.
Yes.
Expanding the program throughout is where we want to go. We know if they come in off 415, we know they're coming in. Same way if they get off by 4, we know they're getting off. So, but like they said, we're going to look. We always reevaluate as we're growing and see if there's more roads to be covered. Because obviously, it's not just crime. It's hit and run things that happen. It's sex offenders going in there. If you have a prolific sex offender that comes into the city, you know, or if they're moving to the city. So, thank you for that offer.
Yes, and every time we've asked the city, we've never been told no, so
Absolutely.
we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
If Captain, if I should add something, Sheriff, to answer your question, Matt, when we switched with this new company, we were asked about additional locations, and I think we are going to have at least 10 more locations in Deltona. They reached out to our investigators, and we gave them our recommendations to cover the gap that existed prior.
Deltona is serious about beating up on crime, like we have, we've expressed that in our meetings and workshops, and I know that our city manager comes from a background where they were serious about it also over in Daytona. So I want us to be on the top of that, right? Making sure that we're capturing every bit of information to assist with your investigation. We have time.
Just so you know, you guys are the testing ground for everything we get. So if there is new technology coming out, and the vendor comes and sees us, we come here first. Because this is the place where we see it successful, then we implement it to the rest of the town.
Deltona thanks you for that.
If it's not successful, of course, you are.
Yeah, and our crime numbers, thank you for that as well.
Go ahead.
All right, that clears up the robberies. That brings us to
Just real quick, just to touch on those robberies so everybody knows, you know, here's one husband and wife in an altercation. The suspect forcibly takes the victim's phone. Second one is during the course of a battery, the husband forcibly takes the victim's phone. Altercation, she struck multiple times, the husband takes the phone. That's why you see those robberies. They're charged with domestic violence, but the fact that they forcibly remove the phone is why it becomes a robbery. So go ahead. So it's kind of misleading. You say we had 140 robberies, but in reality, 75% of those robberies were domestic violence. Obviously, you had the knucklehead that wanted to rob Publix, but he didn't get too far.
brings us in our aggravated stalking. That case was a misdemeanor stalking case, was filed with the state attorney's office. Brings us in our abuse neglect. That was cleared by arrest, both of them. Brings us in our ag assault, which at 1380 Howland Boulevard, this is a Circle K. Deputies responded to the location after two suspects, or a victim and a suspect, were in an altercation at the gas pumps. One of the males pointed a firearm at the victim and then ended up fleeing the scene. It's active to detectives.
This one was assigned to a detective. We used the David program and LPRs to identify the vehicle. The victim and the witnesses were able to give us pretty detailed information on the vehicle. So through that, we were able to identify a male that was associated with the registered owner of that vehicle. The victim and the two witnesses were able to identify the suspect by the photo lineup. So we got a warrant for him, and our crime suppression team picked him up the next day. So that's close by arrest.
Beautiful. Brings us into our Aggravated batteries, we are 6 for 6, all 6 cleared by arrest. And for domestics, we had 24 simple domestics and 7 aggravated domestics. All but 3 were cleared by arrest. We are holding affidavits on those 3. Speaking of domestics,
Holding affidavits means that we're out searching, actively searching
Yes.
every day to grab them before
Yes, sir.
we're supposed to get a warrant. Okay.
while we're on the domestics, I just want to introduce Sarah Hopper. She is our victim advocate for the Sheriff's Office. She reviews all domestic-related cases and offers services to those victims. If you'd like to speak at all.
So yes, I am the victim advocate for District 4, along with the districts in the Deltona area. We make contact with domestic violence victims, offer services, see what they may need, and assist with referrals to the different programs in the area, including shelter, injunction assistance. Some may need relocation services, things along those lines. There's emergency services that we're also able to offer just within our agency. If they needed a cell phone or something because it was taken or it was broken or something along those lines. Yes, ma'am.
Sarah, thank you for everything you do and how you're doing. I want to ask this question of you. Are injunctions being issued, and at what rate do you know injunctions are being issued by judges to protect these women after these? I want you to look at those numbers right there, everybody. Those numbers right there, okay? In domestic violence, because we're poorly served, and I want to understand how these women are being protected.
I don't know the numbers. I can't say, Judge Foxman or Judge Kelly reviewed 45 injunctions and they've approved 30 of them. There's no way for me to know those numbers. My experience, it's a toss-up. When I meet with a victim, I can't say one way or another what I know what the judge is going to do. We try as hard as we can. There are situations, if there is a denial, that's when we can refer to the attorneys with the Beacon Center of Community Legal Services. They give it a second look. And sometimes they can do a little better than we can.
So, my experience has been 100% of the injunctive orders that I've assisted with have been turned down by judges in Volusia County. They're also slow coming forth with those numbers. That's why you cannot get those numbers, because they don't give you those numbers. They don't want to give you those numbers of how many domestic violence injunctions that they have issued. So that's going to be a thing. I'm putting it out in the public. If you're pissed off about it, you should be, because women aren't being protected adequately. These burglaries, these numbers, there's nothing simple about a simple assault, and I just want to make sure that our county and our state and our city is behind you in helping do what we can do, because domestic violence is huge. Look at our numbers. So on this.
Well, one thing I will say is after an arrest, and the majority of those were arrests except for 3, before the defendant goes to first appearance at 1:30 in the afternoon or 8:30 in the morning on the weekends, there are people with pretrial services that make contact with the victims, ask them if they're here, ask them if they don't want contact, if they don't want the person returning to the home. If that's the case, the judge puts a no contact order in place. That is in place for as long as the case is open and can extend into a probation or a prison sentence. At that time, the victim still has that time to still apply for an injunction, but that no contact order can be put in place by the criminal judge.
Well, thank you on behalf of Deltona for the work you and your do. You're an amazing team, and Deltona thanks you, and I'm looking forward to working with you, because you guys did work really. They work hard, Sheriff.
They do.
Thank you, Sarah. And if anybody has any questions for Sarah, you can get with her afterwards. Also, in our district office lobby, there's information on domestic violence and the services that she and her group provides. All right, that takes us out of the crime. So 2 of the more important things that I deal with on a daily basis is traffic and narcotics. We've handled the traffic section. I'd like to pass over the narcotics portion to our narcotics commander, Captain Dietrich.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
For the year 2022, we had an excellent year investigating narcotics crime in the city. I want to touch a little bit. Naturally, everyone is aware of the fentanyl crisis that's occurring in the nation, as well as here in the state of Florida. We do experience it here in the county of Volusia. Our sheriff last week, if you didn't see in the news, met with Senator Rick Scott, along with other sheriffs, to discuss strategies at the federal level to assist with monies and strategies to bring those here locally to continue to fight the fentanyl crisis. An outlook of where we're at as a county. Countywide in 2022, there was 1,713 overdoses, which is down 18% from last year. And countywide, there was 297 deaths, which is down 11% from last year. So some of the strategies obviously are working that we have in place. For the city of Deltona, out of those numbers, deaths in 2022 specifically for just the city was at 30. That represents roughly about 10% of the overall deaths in the county. And the overdoses in 2022 are at 165, which also represents just under 10% of the overall numbers.
You're good.
Okay. Looking at the numbers from 2022 for the city, they were pretty similar to 2021. In 2021, we had 29 deaths and 164 overdoses. One of the interesting things to look at, obviously, Narcan is something that the Sheriff's Office has distributed to all the deputies and as the first responders on the scene, because it is very effective in fentanyl overdoses. And if we look at these numbers in 2020, just in the city of Deltona, there was 115 calls where Narcan was deployed. 103 of those individuals survived. Unfortunately, 12 had expired. But if we look at 2021, there was 98 calls where 90 survived, and unfortunately 8 expired. But if we look at 2022, we had 96 calls, and 93 survived and only 3 expired, which is actually represents 3% of those overdose calls that we go to, where we're able to, between the Sheriff's Office, EMS, fire, and the hospitals that also administer, and even the individuals themselves. Some of these calls that we go to and incidents that we deal with, the individuals actually using the drug actually have Narcan as well, and they will administer it. So we are seeing a reduction in the amount of deaths when Narcan is used.
Eric, could you hold that thought for 1 second? Captain Kindergarten, where are you? Captain Rivers is our school safety officer. He's embedded in the school board. Do you want to talk about what the initiative or how we're trying to move Narcan into the schools?
Yeah, so I'm Rod. I'm a part of the cabinet with the school board. I'm the school safety and security director for the Volusia County Schools, as well as the captain of the Sheriff's Office. So we're trying to bring Narcan into the schools. It's not because kids are overdosing. It's because the parents are bringing these narcotics on the school campuses, and it's dropping out of their pockets or something like that. Or a kid may bring a bag to school that they just picked up thinking it was their lunch bag, and next thing you know, there's narcotics in it. So with fentanyl being what it is, we're trying to bring Narcan into the schools, into every single school, so that it's available immediately rather than waiting 3, 4, 5 minutes for an ambulance or somebody else to show up.
Now, deputies have it, but the guardians, they won't let even though we train the guardians, they won't let the guardians carry it, so that's the hurdle we're trying to cross.
Right. So right now, there's no law enforcement officers in elementary schools. There's only a few select elementary schools that have law enforcement officers in them. So there's a guardian in every single school, no matter where it is. So we've trained them. Now we're trying to equip them, and we just need the school board to say, give us a good thumbs up for that.
And to get to the captain's point, there are times, and I go out with our guys on search warrants, and our narcotics guys will tell you, there are times that we'll hit a house, the fentanyl is on the kitchen table and the school bags are laying right there, where they were cutting up and packaging dope in the kids' school bags, and the school lunches are sitting right there. So we go in, and I don't know that exactly. Thank you. Sorry, Eric, go ahead. I just wanted to get that out there.
I think we have a question right behind the sheriff.
Russ, I got a question. Do we have any way to track the people who survive after they are recovered? We give them the opportunity by giving them this stuff
tried that for a period of time. They're still doing that. You know, anyone that has been involved or around someone who has an addiction and tell that person wants help, not a lot you can do for them. Not able to be. So we do that. We started that in Deltona. We visited hundreds of people. I can't tell you the exact number, but they do it every day. Go and look. They'll look into the jail logs to see who's in there for those low-level drug crimes that are not dealers. Those are the people that we're going to see overdose. We know that. So we'll pay them a visit and talk to them. Hey, we know what's going on in your life. Let us help you. And over time, some of these relationships, you know, they develop, and the detectives can meet them. They can walk them right into field marshal or other places.
There are people that we've deployed in our camp who doesn't times. Just finish over that. Thanks. Questions? Yeah. Oh, Maurice, I didn't see you back there.
So, Narcan, is that something anybody can go and purchase
Yes.
somewhere?
You can purchase it at Walgreens. There's one of the things that came out of the meeting with Senator Scott, Volusia Recovery Alliance, who we fund out of our forfeiture funds. There are the monies that help them get Narcan and distribute out in hot pockets, because they study our overdose maps, and then they'll go into, they'll know Deltona had whatever the neighborhood is, and they'll go set up and get Narcan. They have no funding. It's blocked for some reason, and they can't get Narcan. So the senator, the governor, he was working on trying to remove those obstacles to get that money to flow to groups like Volusia Recovery Lines, because the money's there, it's just they got to get their hands on that.
Because I was asking, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was asking because I know that I went for training with, the recovery group, and they give out. If you take the training, they'll give you. So, just for the residents that are here, doesn't necessarily mean that you have somebody, family or whatever, but if you just come across, you're walking out and somebody's having an overdose, and have it available, you can save that person's life. Well,
Yesterday, and to give you an example, yesterday in the Target parking lot, they told me these detectives who live in that Narcan was coming out from getting a video, and there's a guy out holding the front seat, and he's on the air getting Narcan right away. This guy's out, sure enough, get overdosed in the parking lot of Target. And they were able to get somebody who's close by, but that's how, to get to your point, just anybody carrying it could administer. Yes, sir.
What's the pushback from the guardians getting back?
School.
But is there a specific pushback from the school?
Dan?
So they brought this up before, and I don't want to speak for them, okay? But just in my interactions with them, they've already reviewed this prior to. I don't know if it was last year, maybe the year before. I don't know if it's cost. I don't know if it's a legal thing. But the statute changed. Now it's a Good Samaritan now. If you deploy Narcan, no matter who you are, you're free from liability.
And they're still operating under the liability, but they changed the law. The laws even changed the fact that if you were partying and I overdose and you call 911 and administer, you can't be charged. So if we get there, there's open house, we're not charging you if you do your best to revive that person. The school, for some reason, isn't following suit with that. Eric, sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, sir. I'll just touch on some of the numbers from 2022. There was 147 narcotics cases completed in the year for 2022. The unit made 103 arrests. They seized $84,000, a little over $84,000, which is actually up from 2021, where they seized $14,000. And then these next categories is where I feel a lot of their work was centered at. If we look at how many grams of cocaine that was seized, it's up 400%. They seized 1,690 grams of cocaine this year compared to just under 400 grams in the year prior. And then if we look at the fentanyl as well, fentanyl and heroin, fentanyl is commonly mixed with heroin, and we see a mixture of that a lot. And if we look at the fentanyl heroin seizures, we're up 400% on that. So we're at about 436 grams compared to roughly a little over 100 grams from the year prior. And as well in meth, we were up 200% in seizures with 76 grams. We're off to a good start this year as well. Yesterday, Deltona narcotics team actually took off one of the individuals they were investigating with a traffic stop where they were able to charge him with armed trafficking and Oxycontin, and they recovered 3 pistols and felony amount of cocaine as well out of that car. I want to touch just on a couple cases from the year as well, and some of the obstacles that we run into, and with the sense of urgency that the sheriff's instilled in all of us, to give you an idea of what happens when we hit those obstacles. They worked a case last year on Fort Smith, a narcotics complaint case of an individual that was dealing in fentanyl, where we did several buys from the house. We ended up doing a search warrant at the house where we recovered additional fentanyl pills, fentanyl powder, and Xanax pills and heroin. He was arrested at that time based on what we found out of the house, and also charged with a sale and delivery. At first appearance, the judge let him out on a ROR. Didn't even hold him. So when that came to our attention that morning, we turned around and went out, set up on his house, and actually took him back into custody. When he left his residence, he didn't have a driver's license, and we had additional sale and delivery charges that we actually charged him with and put him back in jail.
Eric, is that the house where we seized the press?
921 Fort Smith.
We
No.
had some press bills in the house.
And when I say the press, there is, you want to talk about the press, what they're doing?
Oh, they're taking pills, they're making their own pills, they're taking fentanyl, they'll press it to make it look like oxycodone, and then sell it to people who think they're getting oxy 30 milligrams, but they're getting fentanyl.
They say when kids think they're buying Xanax, that's the important thing of seizing that press, or they think it's Xanax, or they think it's some psychedelic party drug. In reality, they're taking 100% fentanyl in their overdose.
And just to follow up, that individual now is serving 8 years. He pled out to 8 years in prison. We had another case on Timbercrest. Again, it was trafficking in heroin, where we had a great seizure. That individual was arrested. He's currently out on bond, so he was not released without a bond, but he's out on bond, and the state has offered him 8 years, and that is pending right now. But that just shows some of the tenacity and the sense of urgency that the unit exhibits when they go after these dealers.
Thank you, Eric, very much.
Thank you, Captain.
The one thing I want to touch on before we run for more questions is the city manager. We tried to do this in Daytona. We tried to get a juvenile assessment center put together because we arrest so many juveniles. And Volusia County is one of the very few places where juveniles are not screened when they're arrested for substance abuse, mental health issues, or they're not screened. And just the funding wasn't there. It was difficult to accomplish. So fast forward 16 years later, the county gets some ARPA funds that they allow me to use. They get us a building, and we now have a juvenile/family reunification center, so that every juvenile that is arrested or comes in contact with law enforcement is screened. And then the availability of the programs for them and their families are matched right there. You don't necessarily have to come in contact with law enforcement to use this. We do have parents that come in and say, my kid's out of control, and we're able to hook them up. And our director is Carla Kwan. So we opened it up just before Thanksgiving. And go ahead, take it.
It's a beautiful place.
Yeah, it is a beautiful place.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, we now have a family, it's called the Volusia Family Resource Center. The goal is to come through the front door, not the back door. Our community partners are Department of Juvenile Justice, Children's Home Society, Halifax Behavior, and the school board. And inside the building, each one of those entities has an office. We are just rolling out our marketing for the services to the parents to come through the front door, because as the sheriff stated, we opened November 16th. It was through the holidays, so now we're a full open 24/7 facility. Since we've been open, we have received 142 kids in 2022, and year to date, as of yesterday, 36. If these kids are arrested for a crime and they come in for a felony, their DNA is taken, their fingerprints, and their photographs. We also take photographs of their tattoos. We have instances where I am a grandmother, and I was a grandmother last week. We had a mother who was arrested for DUI, and we took care of her 10-month-old baby until DCF came to get the child. So we take all kids. Runaways, if you think they're involved in human trafficking, we work with DCF. They come there, assess the kids and find places for the kids to stay if we can, reunite them with a family member instead of putting them in foster care. That's always the goal.
I will tell you, it's so popular that we had a couple little juvenile delinquents steal a car in St. Petersburg, got off at the I-4 and 472 exit, tripped the tag reader, and our deputies locked them up and they're like, "Great, before they look at that juvenile assessment center thing." They did make the trip. They came over, they had stopped, they jumped off a bunch of baggage, broke into a bunch of cars. When they got off at 472 and I-4, the tag reader tripped it, our guys picked them up, and then they were transported, and Carla had to wait forever for the parents. So the one parent was sad because she said the kid was out of control. And just
They had no idea. The parents were from St. Pete. They had no idea that they were even in Volusia County. They just knew that they had driven a long time. And, you feel for some of these parents, especially the ones that are working. As she stated that she lived in a bad neighborhood in St. Pete, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, $2,600 a month. So she's not able to buy the nice sneakers or, the nice hoodies or what the kids are wearing. So you have that peer pressure too, where these kids want to fit in and they're committing crimes and they're 14 years old. So.
Ms. Carla, can you tell me about what funding you are qualified to get? Your funding sources, or community block grant, state funding. Can you let us know how you are able to receive funding?
We can receive funding through our community partners. So we come together and we can write a grant because we have all the entities. And working together as a mall of services gives us a better opportunity because we're touching the different areas that grants require. So our partners work with us and we sharpen write a letter of support to support the grant because they bring the funding in.
So your funding partners are able to receive funds earmarked for your program. Somebody has to contribute for your partner, right? Can they earmark funding for you is what I'm asking you.
Yes.
How can the city of Deltona help you, Ms. Carla, is what I'm asking you?
Well, we have the Sheriff's Youth Foundation, which is a 501c3 nonprofit, and that's how you can help us, and the funding goes directly to the building. We've had some donors. We had an anonymous donor give us $100,000. We had another donor that bought the furniture. So they want programming in the building. They want us to be able to provide services. And when I say we're full service, we have diapers, we have wipes, we have, Lunchables, because some of these kids come off the street and they haven't eaten in days. We have Lunchables. We have, personal hygiene for the girls. We have it. Change of clothes, shoes. We have it.
one of the things we're hopeful is the secretary, the Department of Juvenile Justice Secretary, Eric Hall, he has Volusia County roots. He has been here before for his rise through BJJ. So he's going to start steering for us, pilot programs and the funding that go with those pilot programs. One of it being you have these kids that are being arrested at 16 or 17, and they're also parents. They're also fathers who have no idea how to handle themselves, let alone their fathers. So there's a program in some other parts of the state. We want that. We want them to give that to us, and let's try that out as part of the kids on probation in the car. Well, we also have the kid support. We need somebody to do some parenting skills and other skills as well. So there are pilot programs out there that we're hoping are starting to see sort of away. Again, we've only been open 2 months. Really, not even.
Deltona would support you.
Yeah. We have a success story out of Deltona too. We had a young man that was arrested and he wrote an apology letter. And in his apology letter, he read the sheriff's quote that is in the cell that says this is the opportunity to turn your life around. And he realized that if he didn't make a change, he was going down the road wrong. And he appreciated that message and what it meant to him.
Unlike the letters a 14-year-old who shot at us right all the time. I want to begin to tell you which those letters are.
What is the possibility of giving these kids in this program an opportunity to get some kind of vocational training, get into some kind of vocational training where, they can become a plumber or an electrician or something that will give them a job other than having to go out and rob and steal from people. They can actually earn a living. Is there some way to incorporate that kind of
And that's where it starts, because you gotta remember, these kids are 14 and 16, so they're not gonna be able to go to the ATC that Daytona State has to get a certificate because they're not 18. So we have this gap from 14 to 18 that when I went to school, I'm almost 60 years old, we had, woodwork and electrician. Yeah, we had all that. We don't have that anymore. So we're kind of losing these kids because you're right. They're not going to school. We have overage middle school kids, and that's part of the problem the sheriff and I saw when we were back in Daytona. We had 16 years old in middle school teaching the 12-year-olds how to build cars, and that was 16 years ago, and nothing changed. It's still there.
So if the city could invite or coach a school, a technical school, come into town that y'all can partner with.
You can make the judges can see that exact how that is.
Yeah, that would be
From
essential
the
for them.
probation, you have to attend some type of vocational training. What do you like?
Unfortunately, from my experience, and I go through school board, I tried to bring a vocational school to Deltona, and it was shut down by the fire superintendent.
Yes, sir.
You any of the trade organizations locally in the partnership programs? I know the linemen for our company and those contractors, yes. It's Union 222 in Daytona, and they have a apprentice program. That they complete that program, they'll become linemen, and they can go anywhere. They can get a job at Fort Fire Light or Duke or anywhere.
Do they do any outreach trying to recruit people who think at risk?
I don't know that they do that or not, but I know that that's right here in Daytona, 222, and they train.
I can tell you, one of the big problems is going to be passing the drug test.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is going to be huge, because when you talk to the folks in the trade unions, they say, hey, we're not hiring, they can't pass the drug test.
Right. Well, that may be part of the incentive to get them out of where they are. Look, especially a job like a lineman, I mean, you're starting out at $17, $18 an hour as a helper now, or apprentice. Right. I mean, it's good money, and they can increase that if they stay and make a career. They're making really good money. I retired after 32 years, and that was an awesome career. And I liked it. It was, you get instant gratification in a job like that. And for a lot of kids, they need that. They need that instant gratification.
So maybe that's something we put on the agenda for 2023 as a city, is to approach the school and see if there's a way to do that. But Carl saying that you got there.
I mean, not only would it serve in this instance, but it would also serve the community as well, because we've got, 100,000 people almost, all the kids that we have, what are they doing? Not all of them are even interested in going to college or can go to college. This gives them a great opportunity, and we're missing out. We have got to have those things.
Regarding the drug tests, every once in a while, I it's head in the news concerning maybe loosening up the drug testers with recreational use of marijuana. Folks on hard drugs, because it's so hard to find people.
That's the matter for the unions, the trade unions, not me. There ain't no recreational use in our line of work.
Is that a trend because of the...
I think it has been. I think a lot of employers have lessened that or raised the level or whatever it is, especially people that do have medical marijuana cards. I don't think marijuana is the watch out, but it's not just marijuana. It's all the other drugs. It's a good game. It's the lacing of the marijuana that, you have fentanyl in there, you have cocaine in there, everything's laced in there. Anybody have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
And you really touched on
numbers? I guess probably the easiest thing to hit on is, you want to talk a little bit about internet crimes against children? Is that your thing? Okay. I can.
So my question, you clarify, you want the adults that have the child pornography, or you don't want sharing between kids?
No, internet.
The adults having the child? So we get tips, we call cyber tips, and we investigate those.
Tell her how that network is set up and how it comes in.
So there is a national database that you are able to go in. If you have a tip that you want to say, hey, this person I think has a collection of child pornography, you can anonymously put it in there, hey, this person has information. We then start investigating where they live, and hopefully we can get an IP address. We get an IP address of where these tips are coming in, or where these images are housed, and we can get search warrants for the house, get their electronics, see what's out there, and then we can investigate who has what photos, videos, or whatever. And then we can see, are they manufacturing, are they creating these images, are they just sharing these images, and then we charge them.
So, there's the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has a geofence over the country. So if something trips, they'll send us the IP address, and that launches the investigation from there. There are times that we'll get tips, and we've had this happen where there are quote-unquote live victims, where somebody is in the house and they're screaming, where there's some kind of a meeting put in place. Hey, I have my nieces this weekend, I'd like it, I'll come on over.
We've done that in the past since I've been a sheriff, at least half a dozen or more times. We've actually had to go in and rescue kids out of that situation. So,
Not to be too technical, but all these images are stored with them, and they're given what's called a hashtag value. And it's almost like we've seen them repeated before. We know it's an actual image, and it's being reused, so we already know it's verified. Yep, this is a child. We have to determine what's the age of the person in the picture or video. So a lot of times they share the same video or the same picture, and it may be 15 years old. So the victim now may be an adult that was taken, back then.
So my question, how many arrests have you made with adults in Deltona, probably within the last month, that are entertaining that and you were able to?
In the last month?
Yeah. December, November.
We haven't had any, not in Deltona.
Not had any arrests with adults at home watching pornography?
Not in December. I can get you the numbers for the year, but we haven't been here in the city in the last week of December.
Can you give me some numbers?
And just so you know, a lot of it is, we'll serve a search warrant and seize your electronics. Then it takes months to examine and build a case to go back and arrest that person for the child pornography. One of the other phenomena that's happening around the country, and it'll be interesting to see what happened last night with the Swedish police who killed himself, is these kids are taking pictures of themselves and exchanging sexually explicit photos, and then they're being held hostage and blackmailed and embarrassed, and then that kid's taking their life because of what they're posting out there. And so we just had a student in Spruce Creek kill himself last night. It'll be interesting to see what was behind that. Because the school resource officer told us that he was very happy to welcome young man.
A lot of times we have detectives assigned that proactively are on these sites looking for children, and we call those travel cases. A lot of times when we investigate those cases, we do that all the time. And every once in a while you'll see where we'll go and set up a house or something else. But again, as time has gone on, people become wise to our tactics, so that whole predator thing, the way it was done years ago, we've got to kind of change that. But to get to your point, when we catch these people, almost 99% of the time when we exploit their phones, we find droves of child pornography. And that, sometimes we go to their house and we'll execute a search warrant there. And in a lot of cases, we'll find that they were victimizing, their children or their neighbor's children. And it just always spawns out. But it's always a good result.
And this is human trafficking awareness money.
Yes. Yeah, and then, I think part of tell you, when everybody thinks human trafficking, sometimes they go somebody driving down the street and snatches you off the street and they rush you into. That's not what we're seeing here. What we see here is
What we're seeing here is kids are grooming kids. That's what they teach them how to do that.
an example of that is you will pick up on the hospital. You have a young lady who may come from a broken home, and she hooks up with an 18-year-old who says, come to Orlando, get your nails done, get your hair done, and you'll meet these guys, and then it becomes, hey, I'm getting new sneakers, I got my hair done, my nails done, so I'm going to party with this guy that's 20 to 30 years old. Well, he treats me really well. That's human trafficking. And that's what we see in the
And they're saying, and what makes it not noticeable is they'll stay at a Four Seasons resort, take the kids to Disney and spend the daylight. So people think, oh, our family's here on vacation, and then they let them do whatever they want to do in the daytime, and then at nighttime it becomes a different event.
Have we had any arrests in Deltona with illegal immigrants or anything?
It's really difficult. We arrest illegal immigrants, but if they get out on bond and they go on their merry way, nobody gets deported. Nobody gets deported. I mean, we've had, I'm thinking of one incident in particular where our deputy got a shoot and killed a guy in Pearson. He had re-entered the country 3 times illegally, had been deported 3 times illegally, beat the living crap out of his wife, was threatening to kill her when she called us. And when we get there, he gets the deputy's taser from him, tries to use his taser, and the deputy is a shooter and kills him. And we discover that he had been arrested and deported 3 times. When he came back in each time, he had been arrested for distribution of cocaine, he had been arrested for domestic violence, and then he was coming back in.
We don't have authority, I'm not sure. We are not border patrol, obviously. So just because they're here illegally, unless they commit a law violation, that's what we're doing.
Okay, so you have no way of tracking that?
We do track it. The governor gives it, we get a monthly list from illegal immigrants who have been arrested and charged with other crimes who are being released in our community. Touch wood. We haven't seen that. When I get that list, we're never on there. It's South Florida's on there, Southwest Florida's on there, and the Panhandle's on there, but we haven't had anybody get released from prison yet who is setting up shop in Volusia County.
Question.
Marissa.
Just to clarify, and I remember that case because we went to Pearson to try to explain to the residents of Pearson what happened, why it happened. I don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, what they're saying is they're getting a list of immigrants who have crime records, not just because they're here illegally.
Right, they have been sentenced to state prison
Right. So
for
it's not because they
crimes.
have permission
Right.
to be here, it's just these immigrants who have committed crime. Am I correct?
You are exactly right.
I just don't want people to start emailing us and sending us,
Right, they were convicted in state court for committing crimes. Carla will tell you, we do have function is part of a national program where they get millions of dollars.
FUNCH, which is the Home and Enterprise, they're part of the United Methodist Church, and they have the Caminos program. And they got a $3 million grant to house kids coming across the border. And they call them Caminos. So you do have residents, but they're minors, and they stay at FUNCH.
They're unaccompanied minors who get to the border and then Trump takes them in and then they place them after they stay. Now, we haven't had any issues with any of those programs that go on. We have issues with our regular residents. We don't have issues with that program. So, anybody got anything they want to add? Yes, sir.
I didn't update for the child pornography.
Man, how's that? Yes, and they get you right away.
We had no arrests going on in December. We had a total of 5 the whole calendar year. Child pornography. Yep. Now, those investigations, just so you know, those take a long time. There's a lot of court process that happens. As the sheriff was talking about, that we hear that there may be a live victim. We'll be in that house within 24 hours. The rest of that child. But if it's a tip, a lot of times, we have to make sure we're doing
How about letting the city manager have the last word?